Welcome, everyone. Today's discussion is on the topic of what real enterprise transformation in AI looks like. Beyond pilots, how do we scale across the enterprise pilots to go from those proof of concepts to those initiatives that drive real business value? Many organizations are experimenting with AI, but few are demonstrating that success. And today we have got experts that I would like to invite you to introduce yourselves. We have got Kasia Vakarisi from PTN. Welcome.
Can I step in now? Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Kasia Vakaretsi, PTN. I've been with PTN over 10 years now. My role at PTN is Vice President of the Enterprise Data Applications and AI. So my job is to ensure that we introduce the right tools, we have the right data insights from those tools, and we implemented AI to drive the value. PTN as a company also provides data analytics and AI services to enterprises. My role is internal, but PTN offers similar services to our customers.
Thank you. We also have got Chris Molkler. You are joining us from your car this evening.
I am, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So I've held the title of Director of Digital Marketing at Lively, which is an AI company who has been helping contact centers with the use case of automation for customer service agents. And from my background, I'm bringing 15 years working in tech, all with sales and marketing, real life examples.
Thank you. Let's go to Helena, you.
Hi everyone, my name is Helena, and I'm currently the head of data AI at Endstream. I'm also the co-founder and strategic lead at the nonprofit called Sprout Climate. So for those who don't know who Endstream and Sprout Climate is, Endstream is a joint venture between Bell, Rogers, and TELUS, and we're using telco data to fight fraud and scams. And at Sprout Climate, we work at the intersection of community climate adaptation and resilience, using technology like data and AI to support all of those works. Yeah, so thank you for having me.
Welcome. And we have Josh Jeffrey from ForceWave. Josh?
Yeah, hi. Hi, thanks, Alina. Hi, I'm Josh Jeffrey. I'm the managing director of Fourth Wave. We're a collective of experts focused on helping businesses understand where AI fits both into their strategy and into their applications. My experience spans over 20 years in the military, healthcare, technology, and manufacturing around data, AI, ML, and now generative AI and strategy.
So thank you for this joining us this evening for this roundtable discussion. So we are going to get started, and we are going to discuss what is important for companies to drive that business value. We have seen reports stating how few, some reports are saying only 5% of companies are driving real tangible ROI, and many are concerned, is it worth our time? Should we be investing at a large scale in AI initiatives? So my question for the panel is if you could provide some of your experience around AI implementation, that size, the time frame, the scope, the purpose, and who is it for? How do we make sure that we select the right use cases? How do we make sure that we scale those pilots from just experiments to something that drives tangible business value? And feel free to share your experiences, if you can, from some of your customer success stories and what you're seeing in the industry.
If I might jump, that's a really good question, but honestly, I feel like I've been answering the questions about the ROI for the last 2 years. And my recent version of the answer to this question is no one asking us if we should be using cell phones and computers anymore at work. We don't have to prove the value of those. So I'm at the place and time where I don't believe we need to explain this necessarily. We, of course, need to drive a value out of it. Like, we don't give employees computers to play games. We, of course, give them computers to do something tangible and valuable. But I don't think we will be asking that question anytime, like for much longer about AI, value of AI, because we will understand. So to give you a quick background about our journey at Pythian, we've done proof of concept of deploying AI to Pythian over 2 years ago, and then we deployed production solutions over a year and a half ago, and we've been using them since. So when you think about what kind of AI solutions we can all deploy to all organizations, the basic is the enterprise search and chat functionality, right? Like enabling an enterprise search and chat systems that connect to every company's system and allow you to expose the data from those systems and then be able to find that information faster. To me, that alone, it's a value on its own, right? That this is like giving someone a calculator, being able to quickly calculate and find information. It's as the core of what the AI is capable of doing. So at Pythian, we were able to take our AI solutions, enterprise level AI solutions, we connected them to all of our core systems. So we connected them to our chat messaging system, we connected them to our CRM, we connected them to our ticketing and time tracking system, and we connected them to our Google documents and all of the information. And then suddenly, the 20 years worth of information that we've collected as the company became transparent through one single search. And the person who's looking for the information doing the search, they don't need to know where that information is, right? They can just type in what they're looking for, and suddenly the wealth of the information comes at their fingertips. So to me, that alone, this is like saying it's a calculator. You can use it. Absolutely amazing value to our employees to be able to find information. And on top of it, not only find, but also compile and summarize, right? So the next step is I don't want to look through 40 contracts to find out which of those contracts had particular language or which contracts allowed me to use logos or which contract is for that particular product versus some other product. All I need to do is to ask the question and AI gives me the answer. So to me, the basic enterprise search and chat, no brainer, right? I think where we struggle with, which is the next step, is using agents and creating automated workflows and using agents to actually take actions on our behalf. That is where we've created at Pythian probably over 200 agents. My biggest headache right now is governance of those agents, right? To make sure that they do the right things, that the right people have access to it, people even are aware that those agents exist, that those agents use the right data, and the right curated data is underlying all of that knowledge, right? So um, the way where I see it is, to me, this is no longer a question if, right? The question is how do you generate value of deploying enterprise solutions to the company? So just to wrap it up on my side, we've deployed AI solutions to every single employee at Pythian. So we have it enabled for 150 people at our company. And we're using it both internally for back office teams as well as the service delivery teams, so teams that are delivering solutions to our customers. And I can talk more about this, but I will hand over the microphone out.
How about we go to Josh? You at Fourth Wave work with a collection of, you are a collective of experts, and you tend to work with customers across different industries. You have worked and also stood up lots of agentic solutions and frameworks, and maybe you could share with us some of those insights and best practices, and from what you have seen, where was that success?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the success that comes from implementing AI previously has been around the operationalization of AI. And that is bringing that into your organization to help you make better decisions, faster decisions, better informed decisions, in order to, like Kasi was saying, in order to drive value in that direction for your organization. What I'm seeing more and more of, we just released a white paper last week on this, is that those aren't necessarily transferring into true capitalization, meaning that your organizations are not necessarily building something new when they look at that operationalization work. And it's not showing up in the markets. It's not showing up in the ROIs. It's not showing up in the um, in GDP. It's not really showing up in those different areas. What it is showing up in is you're getting better organizations, you're getting better decisions, you're getting faster decisions. However, everybody's sort of getting on that same bandwagon at the same time. So it's commoditizing quickly. There was a book called the AI First Company. It was written back in, I think, 2021, something like that. And it talked about like speeding up so this is pre-commercial chat GPT, pre generative AI, pre all that stuff. And it talked about making those faster decisions, right? And if we were talking about it in 2021, it means we were implementing it in 2018, which means that now that we're in 2026 with a completely different set of tools that are able to make those decisions and have decision chains and have a level of autonomy that we haven't had in our organizations before. Like Cassie was saying, we run into a lot of understanding the risk and understanding the governance around it. So I had a client earlier this year that we went through what they needed to do to change their organization. They were like, let's see what we need to do here. And they were like, we want help with our AI strategy, is what it was. And it wasn't about the AI strategy necessarily. It was about tightening up their internal processes, looking at how their product was actually getting commoditized in the market due to these tools. What they were generating was very quickly getting surpassed by what generative AI could do. So what's the product offering that you can now add, since you've been in business for 40 years, and that you can now bring to the market at a higher level, so that you can, one, survive as an organization, and two, it's even a higher margin. You can actually thrive as an organization. So we were able to put together a new product line for them that is AI enabled, but is really built on their expertise and their judgment and what that organization is able to do. And I think that's where a lot of organizations need to take a step back and look at, if I founded my company today, what would we be offering? What would that look like with the current environment, with the current tools, and with what we think the tools coming next week might be, right? What would we offer that's actually durable and that we can sustain over the long term? And that comes down to the human element.
Good insights. If you would like to share a copy of your, if it's possible, of that paper you mentioned with our audience, feel free to add the link. Helena or Chris, if
Yeah,
you...
I can jump in here. So, my career has really spanned across technology, and during my career in consulting, I've worked for almost every single industry except for retail, really. And now I'm back to the industry side, focusing on telco. But what I have seen so far, the actual AI projects that returned actual cost savings, so investments, has been those point solutions instead of the general usage of AI. A couple of reasons. One, when it comes to cost effectiveness, and when it comes to just in general, the trustworthiness and the effectiveness of those different AI solutions, the small language model foundation, tabular foundation model, relational foundation model, And also just, traditional AI ML will outperform any sort of Gen AI-based solutions at any point in time for any point problem. Second, many organizations don't have a very strong AI enablement AI enablement program. We're seeing many people in the news that where the token cost has completely outweighs the cost of human capital in many companies. And there are two reasons. One is that the actual cost of AI is not reflected in the price as of now because it's heavily subsidized by venture capitalists. Second is that the cost of those tokens has completely spiked up because the way how the chat, the co-work, the cloud code, how it's being orchestrated in the back end use a lot of tokens if we don't know how to optimize it. And a lot of the company don't have the AI enablement program to control the cost, provide the guardrails. That's number two. Number three, there's also, I gave a talk last year at TMLS, it's called the data readiness gap, right? So a lot of times that people don't even think about the data management behind all the AI system that is support. Like in any major enterprises, there's gonna be data silos, right? So how do we first bring those data together from both technical resource side, technical maturity side, as well as people's skills and knowledge and way of thinking. So I think those are the three main gaps that I see is that you can't expect a generalist to solve a very deep problem, right? Second one is the AI enablement in terms of guardrail and optimization, and third is the data readiness. And I think those are the key three ones that I have seen across my, just hopping through different industries. Yeah.
And if I can jump for a second, Helena, like the data readiness is, I think, is so much overlooked a problem, right? Because the cool thing is all of the solutions out there have the connectors to majority of the tools, right? Like you can buy one of the enterprise AI solutions and plug in your CRM and your chat messaging and your file system and a few other things, and suddenly you have the data exposed in one place. What happens if you did not have a good unstructured data gardening processes, right? So your chat messages, your documents, the documents type of things, not the structured data, but the unstructured data. Then you suddenly, if you ask a question, what's my company time of policy? You may end up with a completely wrong answer that surfaces a document from 10 years ago that was never updated correctly, and suddenly the data is there, right? So I think it's a fantastic tool to expose the data, and that doesn't mean it solves the problem of fixing the data in the first place, which I think we often don't realize how much garbage we brought in along all of the journey, right? And then the next step is us, we can use AI to help us clean it up, but at the end of the day, we still need to clean it up.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's we haven't done a good job over time of understanding what we're actually collecting, having good collection plans on our data, let alone ingestion, storage, the actual meaning behind it. And now we are operating in an environment where these tools are extremely data hungry. They want whatever they can get. Uh, and there's also a piece of that gets into um, the insecurities of organizations as well. We want more and more information so that we feel like we're making better and better decisions. This is pre-AI with the dashboards that we would create with one more dashboard, one more report, one more thing to be able to make these decisions. And it's a bit supercharged as we take those bad practices that we had before and apply AI to that, right? We want an agent to now make that decision for us instead of taking that, instead of actually stepping up and making that decision. It's we're deferring that decision a little bit. However, that has never been a good idea. We've always had that responsibility within our organizations. We've always had that need to make those tough calls and those tough bets that are informed and have them made in a very disciplined and structured way. This doesn't help. This doesn't help that. It just doesn't. So it's not a magic bullet. And we still need that really, really good labeled, structured data that we can have ingested by these models to make even so that we can make better informed decisions, faster informed decisions, and better bets.
So, Chris, what are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I agree with everybody 100%. Did you remember that word digital transformation? It's like depending on the maturity of the business and the maturity of the industry, whether it's a simple use case or the scope really isn't clearly defined or there's a lot going on. And I think what's really important to prove ROI, other than just like the time savings and research, is getting a good group of folks together. Who's responsible, who's accountable, who should we be consulting with, and who should stay informed. If you have a whole bunch of salespeople, they can't agree what good looks like. And every couple of days, they're going to have new ideas and it never ends. So, really getting a good feedback loop coming in to make sure that you know what good looks like and that the outcome is something we're working towards and just get it shipped is very important. And also, if you can have somebody who's aware of the costs that could be saved or the costs, is this a revenue generating activity or is this a revenue supporting activity? Having somebody in that group as well would make it a lot easier to kind of show the ROI. So who's a part of the team that's working on this project? It makes a big difference.
I would actually like to add, I tend to lead an AI engineering department, data scientists, ML engineers. The pipeline looks often like we start with an idea. The business often starts with an idea. It transforms into a pilot, an experiment. And then some experiments go into production. And the ones that I'm seeing that are driving the largest impact, largest ROI, tend to be the ones that are impacting the bottom line of that particular business. So if you are an insurance company, for you, it might be, let's process more claims. Let's improve our adjudication process, our underwriting process. Let's just crunch more larger scale. And with AI agents, you can do that. If you happen to be a bank, for you, it might be mortgages or deposits or credit cards. So you plug it into those core business critical areas. If you have, for example, a customer churn problem, it doesn't have to be Gen AI. You could just go with the classics, tackle that with some churn modeling. And now, yes, instead of just having a dashboard, you can have a chatbot now on top of those business decisions. So I would like to ask the panel, how do you select those use cases? Where do you prioritize? And how do you make sure that what you are selecting to focus on is the right thing and helping your company?
I'd like to go first on this one. In a lot of the conversations that I have where people want to do AI, or they kind of look at you as the AI guy or something, you really need to sit down and clearly recognize, is this AI or is it automation? There's a big difference. I think people are kind of blending the two. And I would always encourage exploring automation before AI. It's so important to have a strong foundation. Like if you go all in on AI and you try to AI something, let's say, you're going to realize pretty fast, oh, I'm missing these pieces, or this is not ready yet, or it's not working the way I want. So just take a step back and see if you can have the foundation, get the automation going, then you'll be in a better position for AI.
And to add to it, I've seen a lot of use cases when we ask what people would like us to build. A lot of it is also reports. Automation in the reports, maybe 20% of what people are asking for is actually AI use case, right? So it's good to kind of distinguish if we are bringing the right guns for the war, right? Like, are we like, do we really need to have that expensive solution for that problem? So that is exactly totally what we are seeing as well. Like, to me, of course, anything that helps with revenue, cost of or utilization, right? Those are the three things that obviously are the good ones to go after. So anything that helps me make more money faster, anything that helps me make the same money or more with less cost, and using existing resources more efficiently. That's the golden rule no matter what. But also the cost of deploying it, right? Like, there's some ready to made solutions that literally means you enable an agent, you tweak it for a day or two, and you suddenly are ready to start producing a valuable output. For example, creating an agent that can summarize your current company offering and tell everyone, a sales team, where the existing contract templates are, what we are selling, what are the prices, what are the prerequisites, who to talk to if they need extra support. That agent you can create within a day, you can tweak it within a few days, and it's ready to go, right? And the value of it, you saving enormous amount of noise within the organization and possibly a wrong things being sold and promised to the customers. So this is more kind of on the utilization and cost side of things, right? Because how often do we have our sellers oversell things only to realize that they sold something that we cannot deliver, and we have a problem. So of course, company reputation as well. So some of those agents that are plugged into a very specific knowledge area solve a very concrete problem very fast. You don't have to boil the ocean, right? You can start with those easy use cases, and then suddenly you don't have that problem anymore, and you can focus on building something more mature.
Josh, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So I like to focus on uh, is this something durable, and is this something that we can support long term, and that actually meets those needs, that utilization need. Does this actually impact our bottom line? Does this drive us into an area that we can grow? And that's really around like redesigning the workflows to incorporate this technology to make that better. Looking at your proprietary data, and can you tie that to action with these tools? We like to we like ChatGPT and Claude and all these other different tools that have a great capability of generalizing information and knowledge across the board. That does not change your position as an organization. It doesn't. Everyone has the same tools. So what you have to rely on is, one, do you have those rare individuals that can leverage these tools very well? And two, do you have proprietary data that you can actually turn into action? And we talked about this before, is that a lot of the data that's out there has not been structured in a way, or organized in a way, or integrated in a way that you can reliably meet that need for your organization. So that's where I look to incorporate it into it, is if I can find good proprietary data, that's really where we have a lot of our competitive advantage, then that's what I'm going to focus on. How can we leverage this? How can we turn this into a real actionable way to generate additional revenue, or increase utilization, or reduce costs within our organization?
I think I'm going to try to offer a different perspective here. So, when we're thinking about a lot of the AI use cases or the goals of automation, it oftentimes come from a top-down manner, right? And I don't know if you folks seen the it's almost like a meme at this point. It's like a bell curve. So the x-axis is how well this person knows AI, right? And then the y-axis is how much do they think that the AI can do. The people that don't know much about AI and refuse to do it, they feel like AI cannot solve any problem for them. And the experts, the technical in the field, and then I can, verify this in my own circle in the AI ML communities here in Toronto. When we're thinking about the agentic system, especially the evolution of the complexity of the system, of lack of observability, lack of evaluability, right? What it results in is that it's actually not reliable at all, right? So you have also the other end of the bell curve, and executive sits right in the middle where it knows something about AI, but it doesn't know it completely. But they are also the most hyped about AI. But the problem is that when you're thinking about going back to my previous points, AI is a generalist, but if you want to solve any problem, you have to make it concrete. And that concrete doesn't come from top down, it comes from bottom up. People who understand the workflow, people who understand the problem deeply, right? So that requires everything coming from the bottom up. We have to have that support from the people who are solving those problems from operation perspective, right? And I think oftentimes when, taking Meta as an example, they use their own staff to train a model that replaced the staff that used to train the model. But oftentimes, I think we lose sight of the importance of human intelligence, right? Human intelligence is so crucial, not in automating things, but actually in creating sustainable competitive advantage in businesses, especially for enterprise. That's the differentiator. Now, everybody can have access to those general tools like Copilots, Claude, ChatGPT. The differentiator, sure, is one thing is about you building your own model, right? But what's also most important is the human intelligence behind everything that you do. So I think when we're thinking about all these goals of like automations, cost reduction, we can't lose sight of that. And ultimately, we know that, when we're thinking about even using chatbot as a new format of driving decision making is actually quite scary because we all know how much of an echo chamber it creates, right? How currently LLM is being trained. That alignment issue is exactly reinforcing those confirmation bias. So overall, I think human intelligence and bottom up is the way to go.
That's an interesting point you just raised. If you have got true transformation, true digital transformation, or when we have the internet days, true transformation usually starts from the top, from the C-suite down. But right now, you're correct. You have got a bit of that education gap. And the C-suite tends to be very much hyped up, yet may not know all the art of the possible and how this technology truly works. Maybe they read the report, maybe they read some Gartner reports or attended some conferences. But it's the analysts and those managers that are actually double and are very close with this technology. And I see this as well quite often. I was speaking to CTOs and CIOs just recently, and I was presenting a couple of use cases. And I was presenting them the questions. The questions were, well, why are we building this custom agentic system? Why not buy off the shelf? Why not let maybe Copilot can do this, Microsoft Copilot, or a ChatGPT? And that started more questions around the governance, the compliance, and that question about when do you build, when do you buy something, or maybe sometimes you need to wait. Also, not everything should be solved with an agentic AI system. So that's actually a very interesting point you bring, this transformation. And we have got from David, we have a question. What does it mean, true transformation? How is it different from transformation? Well, yeah.
Yeah, the way I read it is true as in actually delivering sustainable value, right? Like transformation for the sake of transformation, moving papers from one side of the desk to another is still a transformation. It doesn't necessarily deliver a value, right? So you can still produce more reports that don't give you any value. You can produce more information, but if nothing is being done with it, then it is a transformation, except it's not true. Or maybe we should put it not valuable transformation, right? Rather than the word true.
So, what foundational capabilities should we have in companies for this true outstanding AI transformation that drives sustainable value? And how do we successfully scale across the enterprise? That's a serious question that now companies are trying to answer.
Yeah, I'll start. And we talked a little bit about how transformation starts at the top, and transformation is enabled by the middle, and transformation needs to be supported from. I hate this hierarchy, top, bottom, middle. I don't think that that's truly as relevant as it used to be in organizations. Um, if you look at what transformation really is about, it's about redesigning that organization's operating model. And that takes a different mindset from the leadership. It takes a different permission for the everyone that's working within that organization. And they have to come together to be able to make that transformation successful. I I can almost guarantee that everybody on this call has been through a 2 to 3 year digital transformation that was on year 5 and you're still trying to figure it out. It's been a common thing throughout the last 20 years when you hear digital transformation or whatever it's been, right? Um, and a lot of that comes down to the resistance to change within that organization, to meet the needs of the current environment, the current market, the current technology, the current culture within that organization. All of those are extremely important to address as you're looking at that. So what does it actually take, and where does it go? It takes a lot of human work, as Helena was talking about, right? It takes a lot of human work. It's less about the technology and more about the humans, and it's more about the how people think about the problems. This is not there are best practices around speeding up your information and getting to better decisions. We've been doing that for a long time with different ML solutions, different you know automations, RPA, all those different things. We've been doing that for quite some time. What we haven't been doing is the generative work that the tools now enable. And that is there's not best practices for that, especially when you have different models that are jumping out every other week that you may be falling into the trap of trying to follow, right? It takes a experimental mindset. It takes a mindset that you're able to make the bets, informed bets from the leadership side, and that the people that are actually doing the work really have the agency to do that work, and they're not held to the same requirements and constraints that your organization used to have. And that's easy. That's very easy for me to say and sit on here and be like, yeah, all you got to do is change all these things and you'll be fine. It's very, very difficult for humans to change those things, right? That is the toughest part about it. I was at an event earlier today, and it had a bunch of college students, and they were talking about talent in the age of AI. And a lot of the questions were around, so what as entry level college students, what do we need to do? And a lot of the panelists and the advice that was given was, well, you need to build, you need to learn how to build, you need to be goal oriented, and you need to be out there, with a growth mindset and being able to iterate and be all these different things. The problem is that organizations don't know what to do with those entry-level builders, right? They're not conditioned to have that type of person come into their organization to start building things. And when you start building things, as an entry level, you start changing the way that the rest of the organization operates. You start getting into personal insecurities. You start getting into purpose um, uh, considerations. People have a purpose around what they do. And if, you know, Samantha, 22-year-old Samantha came in and changed, everything within a day, and basically automated me out of a job, I'd be very defensive about that. And that's an organizational development concern and less of a technological concern.
If I may jump in here, I think we're sort of asking, we can frame the question a bit differently because I think when we're thinking about AI, all we think about is the how, right? We're not thinking about where we're going, the vision of the future, as well as what we are trying to achieve here. A good analogy I would say here is that, in North America, we're so car focused. When we're thinking about combating climate change, we're like, oh, let's just, build more EVs and sell more EVs. And in Asian country, they have solved that problem like a long time ago. It's called train. And clearly we don't have any trains that's functional in North America because we don't have the vision of what's the problem we're trying to solving. How do we frame that problem? Why we're solving it? The how we can be flexible about the how to get there, right? Like, many of the panelists have mentioned that a lot of the problem isn't AI problem to be solved. It's an automation problem. It can be simply solved sometimes with RPA, right? It doesn't need to call a very expensive Claude or ChatGPT to solve that simple problem, right? And that means that we're also thinking about the responsibility side of this is that we're also putting environments and people at harm as we're doing this, as we're focusing so much on the how, right? It's almost like a branding at this point, like, oh, how advanced we are with AI, but we're not really focusing on the actual value that we bring to this world, to the society, to the customer that we serve. So I think that's the thing we should be focusing on, less about the how and imposing it on everything we see, all the problem we're trying to solve. Yeah.
So I think that's the transformation for the sake of transformation versus doing something that actually has a meaning and a long-term effect and is more of a thinking out of the box, right? I see the question popping there, and maybe I will wrap up some what I was planning to say around what's the foundations to be in place for this to even happen. So we definitely need execs buy-in, right? Like in order to do a transformation that is persistent and stays, you can't do it at the side of your table. You need to have time, dedicated time, and you need to have someone within the company who stand behind and believes in what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll be banging your head against the wall, right? Like you need support from the top folks that decide where the company direction is. But you also need the experts who can do it, right? So you need both. You need that sandwich of experts who know how the work is being done and what it will take to use AI to deliver it or automate. And of course, you need to build the right things, right? So besides all of the things that we said today, like there are ways to identify what's worth transforming, what's worth doing with AI, what's worth changing how you're doing it. And to Helena's point of view, like thinking farther outside of the box than we ever thought, right? Because this is not yet another computer or yet faster phone. We're talking about a technology that many of us have not used on a day-to-day. Like those of us who are data engineers and use ML systems in the past, they have an experience, but this is technology for the masses, right? We never had a place where we exposed AI and people could use natural language and ask questions and get the answers, and they don't need to be data engineers to get those answers, right? They can ask simple questions and they will get simple answers. So building the right thing is critical. But of course, to this point, we can build all we want. If we're not building and we don't have people understanding how to use it and why to use it, then that's again not delivering any of the value. So like in my mind, all those four components, the execs buy-in, having the expert building it, building the right things and having people use it definitely is a big deal. The poor change management and Nick, to your questions, I've experienced absolutely change management is a key to this adoption, right? We are not just saying, hey, I have a new version of a laptop you can use, go ahead and start using it, and people know how to use computers, therefore that is not a big deal. This is a major change. And I think I've personally overestimated how big of a change it is for people. Like I thought we're going to put in a webinar of how to use Gen AI, and suddenly people next day will start using it. Guess what? Not. And I'm not talking about people who have nothing to do with technology. I'm talking about people who have, been in technology sector for 20, 30 years, and they still have a hard time wrapping their head around where or how to use AI. So the change management to adopt technology, the Gen AI technology within the company, it's a major investment like that. Without that, I believe we're not going to be able to be successful.
Nick also mentioned about sabotage, and unfortunately, that does happen. And there is some research that came out that it's the employees sabotaging this AI piece, thinking about, well, am I going to get replaced? What's the future going to look like? And often it's the management that says, well, if I have got a department of 100 people, and with AI, what if they scale me down to maybe 10 people? What's going to happen? And we have got another question from Ari. So the recommendations around the data capture and the foundations and for instance, utilizing org-wide AI meeting recordings to better understand workflows, and any thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll take this one. My general rule on data collection and the value of data is the harder it is to capture, the more valuable it probably is. There's a caveat there, is that the data that you capture and that you collect actually has to mean something for your organization. It has to inform a decision, it has to inform an action, it has to meet the value that you're looking to provide in that organization. On the AI meetings part of it, they're good if the intent is right and you have discipline around how you are collecting that information, what you're collecting that information for, what you're going to use that information for, and how you're going to structure that. I've seen a lot of organizations so far that are collecting a whole bunch of minutes and doing very little with them. It's like taking notes in a lecture hall and then just putting your notepad over to the side and never looking at it again. And do you really want to spend a monthly subscription on something that's just performative? Maybe if it makes you feel better. But there are ways to actually leverage those notes. You can build a data pipeline to bring those into some type of automation that summarizes them using generative AI to really bring that forward. Like, what's the intent? Do you want this to show, like Chris was talking about, like a RACI? Like, are you going to help it determine like your RACI for that? Are you going to have it grab the stakeholders in that meeting and develop context and provide a what people committed to, so you have a commitment matrix? Are you going to incorporate it with your operating system like EOS or something like that to help inform that? There's a lot of different ways to leverage that information so that you have better quality information. But if it just sits there, it's just like a lot of the other data that we've been collecting for years that we don't do anything with. And then we have just piles of this of data that we haven't turned into information, that we haven't leveraged into knowledge, and that's just lost to the organization and to the individuals within that organization.
I'm going to say just maybe one word, PII, Just because we can doesn't mean we should. You have got Copilot and other tools that you can turn on transcription and start analyzing what's being said in that meeting. But the access is only going to be for those who are in that particular meeting. Companies normally don't go about triangulating data from meetings from everybody in the company. They might leverage AI on top of all the documents and policies. I myself have built such tools and products where you have got, for example, an AI assistant on top of all the corporate body of knowledge, but it wouldn't be from those meetings. It would be from the procedures, the policies, those guidelines, and a chatbot could be leveraged by, let's say, contact center employees or internal employees to drive some sort of business value there. And change management, yes, that's a big one, I would say. That one is actually huge. I'm seeing that I have built many systems to date, and change management is quite huge. And someone in the audience also asked about who owns it. Is it HR? Is it marketing? Well, who leads it? And often, and I'm gonna ask the panel, who needs to drive this transformation? Who is that key stakeholder? What kind of stakeholders do you need at the table to see that enterprise transformation and those pilots scale?
I'd like to jump into this one. I think, with the information age upon us, and to Josh's point about the knowledge and intelligence, what's most important is using it in a meaningful way, right? So we all know we have these meeting recorders that take transcription notes, but take it a step further if you're thinking from a sales perspective in a CRM, where you can have a really nice conversation with your prospect and just focus on that conversation and building that connection. And how many times do you forget things, or maybe you don't clearly have next steps? Well, at the end of the meeting, you're going to have like a summary or something. But like if you have fields in the properties in your CRM that is identifying the budget, maybe who is a part of the decision-making process, maybe they're mentioning competitors or things like that, particularly in the sales use case, and I'll give it back to some of the other panelists, they suck at data entry. They move fast, they move on to next things. They don't necessarily capture everything that's important. So it's really easy just to take it another step further and have AI help do a lot of that data entry. And hopefully somebody, a human down the road, will be able to apply that knowledge they've gained in a meaningful way and document, right? It just helps save a lot of time with that.
So many are running AI experiments. We know this. And few are seeing tangible ROI. So I'm going to give you this hypothetical question. If you're joining a company tomorrow as a chief AI officer, what are the first things, 3 things that you are going to assess? What are those things that you are going to do? And how are you actually going to improve this AI maturity in that particular company?
I would start off by asking what good looks like. Can you start off with an example of maybe where you see something? Because we all have ideas, but like, have you seen success? Do you know what you're working towards so you don't get trapped in an iteration loop and scope creeping? Just clearly have a goal. You can have a very complex goal, but break it into smaller chunks and then agree on, okay, when we reach this first piece, we know that we're headed on the right direction, so it doesn't drag on and on and on. Start small, crawl before you walk and before you run. Just take it slow.
I would assess the data landscape, right? The application and data landscape to better understand what kind of amount of information we're dealing with and also understand what the business does, right? To all of our points, like if you can impact the revenue or cost or utilization, any of those are great builds. But if you're going to start using incorrect or obsolete data trying to generate that value, you're not going to succeed. So unfortunately, buying Gemini Enterprise or ChatGPT Enterprise or buying Cloud or Rovo, any of those solutions, right? You could enable them today and start using it tomorrow, plug in all your connectors and you start using it. You have to make sure that your first step is successful, right? Like if they bring 20 years or 50 years worth of data and suddenly for the basic question when I started this conversation with, what's our company time of policy, you're going to get a completely wrong answer. You're going to turn away people from the tool, right? And that from that point is a downhill effect. They will not believe the AI solutions. They will not believe that the valuable, tangible results can come out of it. So besides NIC, the question, right? Like where would you start? Like honestly, these days, when you select Gen AI solution, there are some pros and cons in them, right? Some of them tie you to a specific LLM model. Some of them give you, like Glean, give you ability to select any LLM model underneath. So if you don't want to get tied into one particular provider, you can pick one that gives you an options and levers underneath the hood to change what solution, what LLM you use. The front end interface stays regardless of the LLM provider. uh, which ones have enough connectors to connect to your data sources, right? Like, are you using commercial of the product solutions? Are you going to building those connectors? Are you going to use existing connectors? So pick the solution that works, pick the solution that works within your budget. All of them have the same features. They have search and chat functionality. They have an agent building functionality. They have some of them are better at governance of data and agents and the data that you're bringing in. Some of them have worse governance. They have less clarity around permissions or how to manage some of that. So, like, take a look around. What is your use case? Who are you going to deploying it to? And then what's the solution, enterprise level solution that's there that you would be using it for, right? Like make sure you consider the governance and security of your data. Don't just let everyone at your company go and use ChatGPT and copy and paste your company's roadmaps and budget documentation and then find out in 3 months that you just leaked your company personal, like proprietary information and everyone now knows what's your company budget and who you're planning to lay off, right? Like, think about this. This is not just a tool that you're going to use with no consequences. You need to make sure you put the right guardrails around who's using it, which tools are using it, what they're connected to, who has the right permission. So do your homework around there. And then from that point, like besides giving everyone access to data, like I still believe the search and chat functionality, it may not be the direct ROI translation, but it's something we will not be doing our jobs without in the next short future, right? Like the way we have not been able to do our jobs without having a Google search, we will not be not using the quick way of finding information and summarizing information. That is a time saving that I believe, that we will be using. And then, so that's the foundation. But then the next question, what are you going to do about agents and building agents, right? What kind of standalone solutions are you going to implement? So that is the next complexity that comes.
I'm going to be quick with mine. The first thing that I want to do is I want to know the understanding level of the executives that I work with. What do you actually understand about this technology? What do you actually understand about what the impact might be within your organization? What is your overall goal? What's your motivator right now? Is it fear? Is it excitement? Is it trepidation? What does that matter? Like, I need to know what you understand so that we can have an educated and informed discussion about the actual state of your organization and the state of the technology and where we might go from there. That's my number one.
I think for me is really understand two things. I guess three things in total. One is what's the vision of this business? Like where we actually want to go, right? And given that, what are the something that's uniquely we only have in terms of data that other people don't have to create that unique value that realize that vision? That's like number one, use case number one, right? And then use case number two is like, what are the barriers for us to realize that vision internally? Like, for example, Acacia talked about really great issue that, prior to Google search, prior to RAG, right? There's so much knowledge silos, there's so much disconnections across different departments. And this is the beauty of like, vector database and combined with generative AI LLMs is that we can get people to understand things that they weren't able to understand before and connect to other departments in ways they're not be able to before as well. But that's just one example of the barriers, right? There might be other barriers. For example, if your operation overhead is too much, then you need to think about maybe how can we automate some of those work, augment people's workflow, optimize people's workflow that they can actually focus on value creation work. So that will be my start.
So for this evening, we have discussed technology AI transformation. We briefly touched upon the change management, the governance piece that needs to happen, adoption, ROI, but ultimately AI transformation is still a leadership change. As we close to today's panel, what is just one piece of advice that you would give leaders who want to move beyond AI experiments to create meaningful, lasting impact in their organizations in the next 12 months?
I'll go first. Learn. Number one. Test out the tools yourself. Get into every single book and webinar and YouTube channel and LinkedIn post that you can possibly get into, and immerse yourself so that your vision can align with what the technology is today, and that you understand what might be needed for your organization. And then look for outside help, because you're not yeah, I'm a consultant, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, go use outside help. But this is one of those times it's about who, not how, right? And you really need to find people that you can partner with that'll actually support you in the ways that you need supported.
And to Josh's point, you can also use vendors, right? Like the vendors that are selling you the solutions also have their own expertise. So rely on that to get you started. Like there is no harm in doing small, 5, 10 license a commercial solution to put in place and then see what you can get out of it. If you have not used the solutions before at the enterprise level, right? Like using ChatGPT for your personal needs, it's a different story, but using it internally at the enterprise level where you're connecting all of the data from all of the systems, that gives you a different result. Like the idea is the same. You ask a question, you get the answer, but you suddenly realize how much data there is and how much context you can make sense out of if you do it, right? When you get started this way. And then just start building. Like I would say sooner the better. Like get your hands dirty, create a team, collaborate with an existing team, and get going with it. And you will learn a lot as you go, right? As long as you have the right guardrails and safety net to make sure that you pick the right solution, you configure it correctly so you're not crossing any security or governance rules that you put in place for your organization.
Yeah, I think for me it's the internal clarity of why. The how, whether it's bringing partners, bringing vendors, do it yourself, that actually is less of what matters. What important is why you're doing it, who you're doing this for, right? And never lose sight of that.
Good advice. Chris?
It's hard, but it's just another tool in the toolbox, and it's only as good as the person using it, really. You know?
That makes sense. So if there's one theme that emerged from today's discussion, it's that successful AI transformation is not about deploying more models or trying more ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or launching more pilots. It's about that leadership, that trust. We heard about learning. You do need to learn, and that willingness to rethink how you are operating as a company. So I want to thank our incredible panelists for sharing their insights and experience. I also want to thank our audience for joining. Do feel free to put in ways as to how folks are able to contact you. If you would like to share your socials or a way to reach you, potentially on LinkedIn, do share in the chat. And I would like to thank everybody for joining this evening. And I'm Alina from AI Future Leaders. You can learn more. We do run AI courses and workshops at aifutureleaders.com. And thank you, everyone.